So welcome officially to your last day of traditional Chinese medical insights. Somebody pouring there. It's day 3, it's the last day, and we've got a great day 3 coming up for you. There's a couple of things that were left unaddressed from yesterday, so we're going to go into all of that. But the first thing that I wanted to say is, have you noticed how very important the intuitive part is to the TCM? Have you noticed how important that is? And how specific it is? How many times yesterday when you connected intuitively, it would take you exactly where you need to go in TCM? Yeah? So are you finding the intuitive aspect helpful, not so helpful? Very helpful. Yeah. Very. Yeah, and the way that we number everything, because of the complexity of the TCM content, when you number it intuitively, you know, you just give it the numbers intuitively, bang, it takes you directly where you need to go every single time without fail. And even if it's a bit wrong, it's not really wrong. So even if you work on it, you're not going to lose anything. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to really mess you up too much. Apart from a few you yesterday when you had a bit of, heart fire issues going on, but you sorted that out, so it was good in the end, right?
We all had issues.
Yeah, today was a bit of an issue day, but did you see how it all started to go really smooth as we transitioned from the first part of the day towards the end of the day? It kind of ironed itself out, didn't it? Alright, so we're going to have some write-up stuff to do in a little while when we get the day going, but I want to briefly explain a couple of things that you need to know, and you will be making notes on it later. But what I want to do now in the introduction is briefly touch, like the first brief explanation, then we go into it a bit more deeply when we kick off officially, okay? So yesterday we learnt a little bit about Renmai and Dumai. Do you remember which vessel is which, first of all? Which one is Renmai?
The feminine.
Feminine, yeah. What's its English name? Do you remember?
Especially.
Think of having
Yin.
babies. It is yin, but what's the English name? CV are the initials.
Conception.
Conception vessel, yeah? And Dumai, I liked that, Dudemai, very good. So that's predominantly more energised at the back, yeah? But do you remember what the English terminology is of Dumai?
Governor's vessel.
Governor's vessel. Just think of the beach that we've got here in Cyprus, Governor's vessel, yeah? Okay, so there's a few things about these two vessels that we didn't cover, and you've got like loads of like deep notes in your manual, but I want to just again do keynotes because it makes it much easier for you to remember. So looking first at Governor's vessel, it's also known as the microcosmic fire cycle. Those words are so cool, aren't they? The microcosmic fire vessel, okay? Because it regulates basically all of the yang meridians. It is in charge of it, okay? So basically Governor's vessel is in charge of all of the yang meridians, and Conception vessel is in charge of all of the yin meridians, with one exception only. The Conception vessel also governs stomach meridian, which is actually yang, okay? So it's all of yin plus stomach, and Governors is all of yang. It makes sense because yang is boy, Governors, yeah? And yin is girl, okay? And that is Conception, yes? Okay, so back to Governor's vessel. We were saying that it's also called the microcosmic fire cycle. It regulates something called Zishen, and we'll go into that a little bit later, and you will have a laugh with what that's all about. And it's also called the Sea of Yang Meridians. That's another word for Governors. Sea of Yang. Okay? Nice words, right?
Like Sea of Men.
Sea of Men. That would be good. Okay. So, something really important to know is that You might have heard me say this in other courses before, to protect your energy, to connect the tip of the tongue to the roof of your mouth. Have you heard me say that before? In TCM, what this actually does is when you connect your tongue against the roof of your mouth, it connects Ren and Dumai. It connects them. And it creates what is known as the small heavenly cycle, or the microcosmic orbit. And it's really weird because when you look at the movement, I'm getting goosebumps, when you look at the movement of Renmai and Dumai, when you look at it from a side view, which I couldn't get unfortunately on a video to show you, it does this. What's this?
Vesica Pisces.
It's the Vesica Pisces. Right, and you've got, it's basically the female orbit and the male orbit, and they overlap, and it actually makes the Trinity. So it's just another way that it works. I'm giving you the overlay of that, yeah? So if there's time today, I don't know if there will be, we're going to do a little meditation for the small heavenly circuit, the microcosmic orbit. If there's time, we'll see how that goes. See. Libon. Also, governor's vessel, as we mentioned before, represents the fire of the body. It controls loss of body heat, and it controls sweating. Okay? I'm looking over here because we know what we're talking about. And then you would have to look at points along governors to correct that issue. That's it, it's going to help you very much. Cool. And it also does something, which is it nourishes the 5 ancestral organs. This is extra info, but I'm just giving it to you so when you come across it, you know what it is and how it works. We will go into that a little bit later on. Okay. Now, conception vessel, Renmai. Conception vessel is all about direction and responsibility, because of course the female is always more responsible than the male. Okay, but don't forget the male one is all about I've got your back. Remember, I've got your back. The protective energy is in governor's vessel. Let's see. Now, the female vessel, conception vessel, is all about direct responsibility and the circulation of the Wei Qi. So it takes what's happening from Dumai and it circulates it through Renmai. Okay? It also nourishes the uterus, so it's a good place to go if you've got any of those kind of issues going on. And it's also connected to the conception and thrusting vessels, which control life cycles. We will look at the vessels a bit later on. Okay? It distributes fluid and the guardian chi, which is what we just said before. And it is responsible for the microcosmic water cycle. Stimulates something called Huan Shen. And I will tell you what that is again a little bit later on. Guys, this is all in your notes. I'm just like, so you're going to have to read all of that, you know, shitload of notes. We've just gone boom, 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 so you can remember a little bit of it, yeah? Okay, so that's basically a little bit of footnote about Renmai and Dumai, what they're connected to, and how important they really are. Yeah, very, very important, those two. So we are going to look at the 5 ancestral organs. We're going to look at the 8 extraordinary vessels. I love their names. And what else are we going to look at? There was one other weird one. It must be here somewhere, because I forget them off by heart. There it's back. Okay. Yeah. So we said the 5 ancestral organs, we said that one, yeah? The 8 extraordinary vessels, they're also called curious, the 8 curious vessels. I'm going to give you the names of those a bit later on and why they're so curious. And also the 6 extraordinary organs. And we're going to go into those also a little bit more in bullet form later for you. The meridians they're like the rivers, and the 8 extra are the reservoirs. So basically, all of your meridians, they're taking energy from the reservoirs. Okay? Now, out on the internet and data that's available, there's not too much on the 8 extraordinary. And the reason for that is because they haven't got enough evidential data about it. So that's why it's hard. However, the 8 extraordinary are also considered to be the psychic channels. So they're important to us. Even though they don't believe it, we do. Okay, so we'll get into a little bit more about that a little bit later on. And apart from that, I'm just going to tell you real quick now what we're doing today. Apart from that. So as you all know, we're going to be doing tongue diagnosis. So I hope your tongues are clean. We're going to be looking at the brain, which is very interesting stuff. We're going to be looking at traditional Chinese medicine corresponding to the spine, but also we're going to be looking at the pathology of the spine and overlaying the two. Okay? We're going to be looking at yin and yang again today, but this time specifically for foods. Okay, so the first day it was general, and today specifically to do with the food groups. Now, these extra things are, I don't know if we're going to do them or not, depends if we have time, and that is, we're going to be looking at traditional Chinese medicine and meridian therapy for trans-temporal experiences, past and future lives. So you can actually apply TCM to other times and places. Yeah? Sounds tricky? It's not. It's exactly the same as what you're doing here, because we're everything in all times and all places, aren't we? Right? We're looking at karmic health conditions, so things that you've brought through karmically and how that can be addressed with TCM. Yeah? And the higher purpose of your disharmony or disease. What's the higher purpose of it? No one ever looks at that, do they? Why am I going? You need to know why you're going through what it is that you're going through. Okay? And also, here's where it gets really tricky, if we have time to do it. Yeah? TCM psychic surgery. So we'll see how that pans out. So guys, didn't I say teeth? And of course the teeth. Yeah, so we're going to be doing diagnostics for teeth. There's also a couple of diagnostics that we didn't have time to cover in this body of work, but perhaps another, but I will mention it real quick. One is auricular acupuncture. So basically your ears are full of acupuncture points, and if you were to go to a TCM doctor, they'll put plasters with little pins in them and squeeze them onto different bits of your ear to keep the energy going. So that's another form of acupuncture, but it's just for the ear. Yeah. And the other diagnostic that there is as well is the face. So the face connects to all of the different meridians and the different organs, right? So just looking at the face can tell you a lot about where it is you need to go to work. And we can actually look at that because it's brief and very, very easy. Okay? All right, so I think that's our intro in a wrap, and now we're going to get into the juice. Thanks very much.